Have you ever wondered why, in different stages of the day, you're more coherent, you're more productive? Sometimes that's the morning for people or the afternoon. Everyone has their biorhythms. But did you know that you can actually hack productivity with breath? I know that sounds crazy, but it's actually as simple as that. You can see on this graph, this is heart brain coherence. Okay. Here's the brainwave monitor, and here is the little heart monitor. Has to stay on the lapel if it's a business suit, or on the left, right? So that's measuring the heart and the brain. When these two, the heart and the brain, are in coherence, then you step into a higher state of intelligence, which is noted by the green. So I was just making a recording before, uh, and my cat was hiding under the couch, and I hate it when I'm in the middle of a recording and something interrupts it, and you can literally see where I went all the way down into that red zone. You can see the first time I heard the cat, she was sneezing. I thought, okay, I'm just going to ignore that. And then she started, doing other things. There, you can see where my focus was lacking. All right. And knowing how all of this works, I knew as soon as this starts bottoming out, I'm not going to be able to do a proper video. So I wanted to give you an actual demonstration of this, because once you see this, it's so powerful. Let me explain, all right? There's a little piece of science from this gentleman, Joseph Chilton Pierce, all right? That's in this book. Of course, I recommend that you read these books because it's like a shortcut. It's like consciousness and science for dummies, basically. But Joseph Chilton Pierce made this wonderful discovery, this connection about how all of our brains stack and how all of that works. In the next video, I'm going to tell you the story of the sentinel, the sheep, the dreamer, and the sage, which is actually allegorical about our brains. We're also going to do a series on how your nervous system is like a car, if we had to make simple analogies, right? But Pierce discovered that the brains stack. The lizard brain, the most primordial brain, is responsible for your autonomic functions. Therefore, if it's activated, if you're in fight or flight to any degree, then the amygdala actually hijacks all of the other brains, the small mammal brain, the neocortex, and the frontal lobe, in the service of proving its story is correct. So if I'm sure you've never been in a disagreement or had a client that was agitated, but you ever notice that everybody always has to be right? And they'll say and do almost anything to prove that they're right when they're triggered, when they're emotionally activated, when they are in the red zone. Okay. So I'm going to keep on going through this, and then we're going to think about how this applies to the workplace, how it applies to your office and your business, your clients, your life. Because if you have a nervous system, you need this manual. They say that we didn't get a manual for the human body, and I get that. There's not one single coherent manual, except for what I've put together. But you can't actually put it into just a manual like a book. This is a good foundation, right? But you have to experience it. So in the end, I have to walk clients through a series of steps that actually give them the skills that they need to stay more and more in the green zone. Because if you're in the green zone, and there's a zone even higher than that I call finding the forest, which is like uber coherence. I think it's called gamma. And so that's a state where you're really expansive and connected to the universe. And I've learned how to teach people how to achieve that. That is a lot like plant medicine, but it's safe. This is literally safe for a 3-year-old, only for a baby, but ages 9 to 99, as Dr. Seuss used to say. So this is an actual game that you play with a game board and little pieces and little note cards, and we teach people how to stay in that green zone, because once you learn how to do it, it's pretty easy to replicate. So the brains stack. If the amygdala is activated, none of these other brains are really fully online. They're literally like hijacked in the trunk of the car as your zombie sub programs are driving that puppy around. Okay. If your amygdala is activated, it's like having a zombie driving your vehicle because it is only knowing two things. It's in fight or flight. It's in that kind of like zero sum game, that black and white, right and wrong. And it's not a very intelligent brain, except for doing one thing, which is to protect you from getting hit by a car or, getting taken advantage of. But and that's a whole nother story. Nowadays, people are sort of locked into fight or flight because they don't know how to work with their nervous system. That's what I teach people is how to work with their nervous system so that the amygdala isn't driving you around. All right. Uh, the next brain is the small mammal brain. That's the brain that allows us to feel cozy and comfortable. Without being able to feel cozy and comfortable, you're not able to heal because this is the next brain that stacks on top of that lizard brain. Then you have the neocortex, which is the place that makes stories and makes understanding. Ian McGilchrist wrote this really brilliant book that I used for my dissertation, talking about the right and the left brain. And that's a whole nother aspect of things. But when you're in heart brain coherence, you see how happy I am talking about this stuff? See, this is my life purpose to talk about this stuff so you can see that it gets me into the green zone without me even practicing the techniques. The neocortex makes stories. You have right brain, left brain, and a bunch of other things. But to understand the basics, you have to understand that this part of your brain makes up stories about things. Okay? I used to work in the court system as an interpreter for the public defenders, and I saw a lot of cases, and I helped to interview a lot of witnesses, and each one of them was 1,000% convinced that their version of the story was correct. Until we had cameras, we had 10 different perspectives from these witnesses who were all there about what was happening, and none of the versions were the same. And so it's a really powerful thing to understand that your brain is literally making up stories to explain and record what is going on in the world. My battery is low. How frustrating. You know, they say that they're going to have a universal cable now. Wouldn't that be nice, right? Bing. So, this part of your brain makes up stories. And they don't have to be accurate in order to be plugged in there. Makes up stories. In order to heal, we have to change our mind. We have to shift our story about something that happened. I call this memory reconsolidation. And there are lots of traditional native and shamanic practices from around the world that help people to do this, actually. Shifting your perspective from this happened for me instead of this happened to me. Seeing things from the higher point of view, right? That is this. And the frontal lobe, that fourth brain that does the integration work, it can only come online when you're in a certain brainwave state. Okay, so I'm going to show you this again, and you're going to understand. Look, when my computer was running out of charge, you can see here how that dipped into the red zone because I was worried and frustrated. Oh, what are people going to think? Oh, I don't want to have this edit. And you see, you get into that worry brain, right? And then things go down. Very quickly, I'm going to show you the technique that is the end of the final chapter in here. I have to find a way to get this out to the world. I have to find a way. So I'm calling the Unitarian Universalist Church, thinking maybe they would want an event. So if any of you know, or if you want to organize an event where I come out and I actually perform this, it's just spectacular. It's like an evening event where, I don't know, I feel like people should be wearing ball gowns because finding the force is such a spectacular thing. And this game is just so much fun. In the game, you actually learn these breathwork techniques, but you learn them in a way that stacks the same way as your brains stack. So the first thing that you have to do in order to, oh, look how happy I got when I was talking about it. And see, the crazy thing is that happy employees, happy people are like 100 times more productive. And learning happens 400 to 500 times faster when you're engaged in immersive play. The part of our brain that's really good at learning, because if you've ever seen little kids, right, you see how much they learn, how fast and how joyful they pick things up, right? It's such a pleasure working with the little ones. That's that part of our brain, you guys. You have to be about 5 to 8 years old in order to really access your higher power. I know that sounds crazy, but if you don't feel safe and that little animal part of you, that little kid inside of you, if that doesn't feel connected and with purpose and really present in the body, then none of these other higher functions work. So that urge that they've taught us to go, 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 push harder, grind, make more money. I mean, it's literally the exact opposite of how our vehicle works. So I wanted to say that immersive play is the quickest way to learn new skills. I'm going to show you this. Now, I'm going to think about something that really bothers me. Okay. Let's all sit here and put your left hand on your chest. All right. Inhale and exhale. Okay, now you found your heart, and your graph is probably looking pretty good. See, my coherence just went up. Now, think about something that really bothers you. Like last night on my way home, there was a huge pickup truck that was so close to my bumper, I could actually feel their engine rumbling in my car. And they had their music up loud. They were like playing death metal. I got nothing against that, but just the feeling was super creepy. And they were flashing their lights in my rearview mirror, and I thought I was gonna get run off the road. I was absolutely terrified. I had to call the police, call 911. I was so frightened, and this happens constantly here at the beach in Delaware. If you're a therapist down here, please, I'm begging you, tell your clients to calm down, all right? Because there's no sense in murdering someone to get home 5 seconds early. It's just madness. So you can see immediately, look, see, look how that affected me even just talking about it. I imagine that while this guy was trying to run me off the road, I was in like the pits of black, red hell, at the bottom of the phone. I don't think there's a graph for it. But if people are living in that state of anxiety and spin cycle in their head, they're not productive. So I teach my clients how to regulate. So now let's go back to regulation. All right. The quickest way to get to it is box breathing, where you inhale to 4, you hold for 4, exhale to 4, hold for 4, box, right? 4 by 4. So let's do it together real quick. And then I'm going to explain to you why that works. And I'm going to get out of here. Okay. So let's inhale to 4. Fill up the lungs all the way down. And exhale to 4. Hold for 4. A little bit slower. You can see how, as you're relaxing into this, your heart rate and everything really stabilizes. When you take over the autonomic functions, you're essentially stepping into the driver's seat of the vehicle. Your lizard brain is controlling your breath when you're not, and it's controlling it based on subconscious or unconscious patterns, all right, which nowadays are often not too good. In order to take the wheel of the car, you actually have to first take control of the breath and start paying attention to your inner world, all right? If you do 10 of these box breaths 3 to 5 times a day, it's going to completely change your world. All right. I'm going to check out now, but it's been a pleasure talking with you, and I hope to talk to you some more. I'll be making these little videos, and also I'll be releasing a series of videos from different therapists rehabs, and all kinds of different things. I really have a lot of treats in store for you this summer, and I'm so excited. Okay, bye for now.